on here and share a lot of valuable information. Today's episode is called How Jose Sells 110 Homes a Year. He's actually sold 100 plus homes for 2 years in a row. For those of you that don't know who I am, I'm Jeff Manson. I'm the founder and CEO of Real Geeks, and also a Hawaii and a California real estate broker. And my co-host is Frank Klesitz, and he's the CEO of Vyral Marketing. Hey, Frank, can you let the audience know how they can get notified of further episodes?
You got it. So keepingitreal.com, you can see all the shows we've been doing all these years, all up on that page. And if you put your email address in on keepingitreal.com, we'll only send you updates, nothing else. No other emails, only come from just when we launch a show in the replay. On top of that, on the Real Geeks Facebook page, you can follow that. We post all the shows there. iTunes, you can actually see them on iTunes as well. And the Real Geeks YouTube channel, you can watch them there too.
Right. All right. Hey, Luiz, thanks for joining us. We're really excited to have you on. He's just a young superstar that's just crushing it. Jose, how long have you been in the real estate, and how did you get into real estate?
So this is my 7th year in the business. I got into it. My family growing up invested money into real estate. I saw a lot of people kind of go from nothing to a lot. So just wanted to be a business owner and didn't want to have like a lot of overhead. Like I didn't want to own a restaurant or a retail business somewhere where I had a lot of different variables. Wanted to be in a service-oriented business. And
you wanted to be, it sounds like you want to be control of your own destiny and have no limitations or ceiling.
Well, I just didn't want to get paid hourly, to be honest. It just wasn't for me. And I knew that the more I worked or the harder I worked and the better I got, there was just no limit on the amount of money that I can make. So,
all right, great. So can you share your progression with us? I know last year you sold right around 110 homes. This year you're going to be right around 110 years. Can you take us back to the beginning and how you progressed, like your first year, second, third, fourth, and how you progressed to get to this level? And then maybe when you hired your first assistants along there.
Along the way, yeah. So essentially my first year was 2011. I was part-time that year, or full-time. And then full-time. So I worked with my parents at their cowboy store. They have a cowboy business. And I worked part-time in real estate. I sold about 9 homes that year. For the first 6 months, I didn't sell nothing, 0 homes. And it was just a learning curve. I didn't have any guidance. I didn't know what to do. Then I got a mentor at 6 months, one of the top agents in the office, and he kind of taught me how to sell property. So from 0 to 6, 0 homes. From 6 to 12, I sold 9. And then the next year I sold like 18. Then the next year after that, I sold like 19 again. But the difference was in my 3rd year, I made the transition from a buyer's agent to a listing agent. I got involved. So I felt that maybe I took a step back, but it was because I was more focused on listings, and I was actually letting go of a lot of business. Then by the time I started focusing on sellers, I went from 19 to 37, then from 37 to like 39, then 57 homes. And then last year was our first year selling over 100 plus homes. So we went from 109. This year we're on pace to break 100 again. So
right. All right. So you had a few slow years. You had you brought on a mentor. He helped and coached you through to work buyers. And then at what point did you decide or did the light come on like, hey, maybe I should be working sellers and take a little more control of my business?
So I went to a Mike Ferry retreat. And then I don't know if you guys have ever been to one. I would imagine so. He pretty much that's his entire message right there, to focus on sellers. So at that point, I just kind of had blind faith. I met a lot of people who were actually doing that, and it seemed very real. I remember my first Mike Ferry retreat. I was in a car of top producers, and everybody was like talking about sellers, and I had never dealt with a seller at that point in my entire career. So it was nice.
All right. So you went to Mike Ferry event. Did you join his coaching? I was in his one-on-one coaching actually for 10 years. So when I was younger, and it really helped my business. Did you jump in and join their coaching right away? Or did you just go and listen and network and keep going to his events? How did that?
I actually listened for a couple of events, but then I had a good friend who's still a good friend now. He basically walked me to the back and said, "You're signing up. Give me your credit card." And I signed up after that. And then I've been in coaching ever since. But if it wasn't for him walking me to the back, I probably would have procrastinated for a little bit longer and taken a lot more. And then what helped too, before I signed up, I shadowed the guy that was actually listing a lot of property. And Mike's message made sense when I shadowed him, because he was doing exactly what Mike was telling us to do, which was get on the phones at a certain time, go get a contract signed, bring it back to your assistant. And I saw the whole thing and I was like, wow, this is real. And that's when it really clicked. So
you actually had to see it and feel it to jump in, where some other people just might have to listen or go, oh, that makes sense. Okay.
No, I think things through.
and is that, you're a little analytical. Is that right around when you were 19 homes, or was that when you had hit 37 and then jumped up to 57?
When I shadowed the guy, when I shadowed the guy, that was right about the 19 homes.
So after you did that and joined coaching, you went from 19 to 37, and then you went from 37 and hit 39 a couple years, and then you leaped up to 57. And then last year was your first year over 100.
Yeah, big time.
All right. And then when did you first hire your assistant? Because that's crucial when you're starting to grow your business. That should be one of your first hires.
So when I got to 37 deals, that's when I had hired. I had a pretty unique setup with my mentor at first. He had an assistant, and part of our mentorship is I would pay him a portion of my commission to him. And then he would allow me to use his assistant. So essentially they did a lot of the transaction for me.
Oh, perfect.
I paid a lot of money. Like, I probably could have hired an assistant sooner because of the percentage that I was paying, but it allowed me to leverage my time to spend more times on the phone, as opposed to trying to save a little bit of money here. So I paid a lot more probably, but I'm glad that I did it that way, to be honest.
I would say you're probably, looking back, you wouldn't have done it differently, because had you not had that mentor, it was like investing in your education, like going to a college or something like that, so you can excel your business.
Yeah.
Great. And then currently, what is your percentage between buyers and sellers?
So last year was 65 sellers and then 44 buyers or something like that. 65. So I think it's maybe, I think it's like 60%, maybe. I'm not that great at math. 60%
is sellers and 40% buyers?
Yeah, roughly.
Okay. And then do you have a team right now?
Yeah, we do. Okay. Last year, our team was 2 buyers agents, and I was the listing agent. And then this year, we've actually expanded a little bit. So we have 3 buyers agents, and then we have somebody that makes phone calls for us as well too.
Okay. And then you're the main listing agent in the business. So all the listings run through you. You go on all the listing appointments.
Yeah, I go on all the listing appointments. Yeah.
And then you feed the buyers agents leads off sign calls and internet and all this other stuff you're doing.
Yep. For marketing our listings.
Yeah. All right, great. And then what are I want to start now diving into, like, what are the sources of business that you're doing now that we know you're doing 100 plus, 60% are sellers and 40% are buyers? How are you getting the majority of your sellers? What are those sources looking like? I would imagine it's over several different sources, but how do you start going through those?
Yeah. So at first, my first couple sources were just the traditional ones, like expireds, for sale by owners. Then as we continue to grow, we started dialing probates with attorneys. And then we also started more like targeted lists. So for example, what we did is we took a look at what was moving in our market. And then we basically said, okay, for example, there was a time period where everybody in or a lot of people who were selling in our market were people who purchased from 2009 to 2014. We said, all right, great. How can we get a hold of that list? And let's call that list. So we started calling that list. So it got to the point where we started analyzing trends as to where the sellers are coming from, and then getting targeted lists. For example, if they're absentee owners, if they're people that purchased from 2009. So I would say biggest sources are my sphere of influence, which now I've got it built with a lot of business professionals. So I've got a lot of attorneys on there. I've got a lot of CPAs. I've got a lot of people that are business owners that can refer me more than one deal. Then it's probably the purchase, the targeted list that we call. on there. We called it a hot market script.
So, and that's the COI hot targeted, but you also do anybody that you know, past clients and all that as part of your COI as well, right?
Oh, big time. Well, we add anybody to our COI, anybody that we feel that can either do multiple deals with us, is an influencer, or or somebody that is a raving fan of us, we add it to our database. So if we have a call with somebody and the call's pleasant and he seems like somebody that would do business with us in the future, we'll keep in touch with them as well too.
So why don't we dive into this? It sounds like you probably get the majority of your business from your COI past clients and the list, and you're building that list nonstop from your cold calling as well too, right? Every day
we're building that list.
So the cold call, when you talk to somebody, if they're not buying or selling, how do you go through that, and how's that sound like when you're talking to them, and then how do you get them transitioned into your database? Let's start there, and then we'll go through how you work the list overall. But like, let's say you're cold calling an area through the 2009 mover or buyers, trying to find out if they're looking to buy or sell, or even an expired listing. Maybe let's say they're not ready to sell yet. How would you handle that, and what's the process, and what do you do?
Yeah, so I'll say something like this. Jeff, I know that you're not ready to do something at this present moment. Would you mind if I send you my contact information in case at some point in the future you may consider either buying or selling? And then they'll typically say, no, I wouldn't mind. And then I'll say, great, what's the best email for me to send you my contact information?
Okay,
so take down their email.
Okay, so you write down their email and all that, and then what do you do?
So the cool thing about Real Geeks is that it has a syndication, or from Mojo to Real Geeks. We have that connected. We press the push button on Mojo, sends it to Real Geeks. Once it's in Real Geeks, we label them seller, whatever urgency level they're at, hot, nurture, or archive. And then from that point, we set them up on a home search activity after that to see if they're clicking on any reports, and then we send them our contact information through there as well too. We've got like a templated email that we send out just with our contact information, and we also send a text message through Real Geeks, just basically saying, hey, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. Here's my contact information if you ever need anything.
So you send the text through Real Geeks. The internet got a little janky. What do you set them up on the Real Geeks once you put them in?
So we set them up on a home seller report or a home value report.
Okay, a market report.
A market report. So essentially we take a look at whatever track or neighborhood they're in, and then we set them up on Real Geeks so that every single month automatically they receive a home sellers report. And then the cool thing is that you can watch to see when they're clicking, what they're clicking on, who's staying on the website, and all that good stuff.
All right, so you're able to see all their activity when they come back, because it's not a report like a PDF. It's actually a link that brings them back to the Real Geeks website to engage. I would stress that anybody that's got a Real Geeks solution be doing this with every one of their people, everybody they know. All right, so 100%. That's what you do with when you put those in, and then what else do you do? I know I think you work with Frank with your database, so you put them on the Real Geeks, you do that. What else do you do to market those people?
So the cool thing about collecting emails is that once you have it, you can just grow that list tremendously. So once we have their email address into Real Geeks, that email list gets pulled every single month by Vyral Marketing, and then we just produce content after that. There was a point early on when I started Vyral where I was doing videos with topics, and then it got to the point where I just started doing live videos on Facebook, and then Vyral would just take those live videos and send it to my database. But I'm going back to having more valuable videos, because I noticed that people pay attention to those videos tremendously.
All right, great. Do you have any questions at this point, Frank?
Yeah, got a few.
All right, good.
So Pat asks, this is good. You start off in buyers. Can Jose go over some of the key insights that his mentor told him on his 6th month that made you shift your mindset?
Yeah, and that was key, because when I started off from 0 to 6, I found out that from 0 to 6 months, I was trying to convince people to buy a home. Like, oh my God, it's such a good time to buy. It's the greatest time. Prices are all-time low. This is how much your payment would be. But what I realized is I was focusing on a lot of unmotivated people that had no interest, that no matter how great of a time it was to buy, they weren't going to buy. So my mentor told me, instead of focusing on those people, focus on people that want to do something, people that you don't have to convince. So that was number one. Focusing on people that were actually ready to do something. I remember I found my first person that wanted to do something now. It was a sign call from one of my mentors' listings. I took it and they're like, yeah, we need to buy in the next 2 weeks. Within 2 weeks, they were literally in escrow. And I was like, oh my God, that was easy. So from that point forward, I just started focusing on people that wanted to do something sooner than versus later, or just focusing on people that actually wanted to do something, not somebody that I was trying to convince. Not only that, but he taught me the personal side of real estate as well, too. He taught me that real estate is a people's business, meaning that it's somewhat of a relational business, relationships with other agents in the marketplace to get your offers accepted at that time, relationships with clients, past clients, referral business. And then he also taught me, when I was dealing with buyers would sometimes not know what they wanted. So they would tell me, I'm looking for a home for 300,000 and under. And I remember I would only show them homes under 300 and under, even if they were qualified up to 400. But none of the homes 300 and under at that time matched their criteria. So he taught me that sometimes buyers don't know what they want, to basically show them more properties. And then once they see the home at 350, now they know what they want. So essentially taught me the dynamics between husband and wives, how integral the wife is in the decision-making process of purchasing a home, things that, and also the emotional aspect of it. When I got into real estate, I had already bought a home. For me, the process wasn't very emotional. It was very logical, like, okay, this deal makes sense. But for a lot of people, it's an emotional process as well, too, meaning that it's a big decision for them. So he taught me that it was a big decision, and that was really important, because I didn't understand that part. For me, it was just the house. So being a little bit more sensitive to how big of a decision it is for families. Those are some of the key things that he taught me.
That's good.
Yeah, I think that's huge. Can you hear me, Frank?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think that's huge. The first lesson he taught you is to focus on people that want to actually do something instead of trying to convince them. I think too many agents, when they're getting leads from Real Geeks or wherever, they're so pumped and they're trying to convince people into doing something they don't really want to. And I think it's a lack of prospecting and a lack of having enough people that want to do something, because they're not working hard enough. They're not staying focused. So they then become a little more desperate and trying to talk people into it. I think that was huge. I think that was a huge takeaway for me.
Yeah, big time. That was important for me, big time.
All right. Any other questions while we're right here in the middle, Frank?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
So here's a good one. This is about your videos. Jessica asks, well, to me, do you provide the topic in writing for the videos so it's not whatever comes to mind? You mentioned to everyone you just pick up a phone and go live on some topic. You have to grow into that, right? Why don't you share maybe the journey you took of publishing content for your list, of how you started and how you came up with your topics, and now how you're going now just live, and how you grew to get to that point?
Yeah. So for me, I ended up doing Toastmasters a while back, which Toastmasters is a public speaking organization where they kind of teach you some of the foundations of public speaking. So that was really helpful. But when I first started doing it, my coach would just send me a list of things. But then I would spend my Sundays doing topics or doing Real Geek topic videos. Then I got to the point where I just would take whatever conversation I would have with a client. So for example, if I just got off the phone with Frank and Frank was a client and he told me, Jose, should I buy a home? Should I sell or rent my home in order to purchase something new? I would take whatever conversation me and Frank had. I would take out my video and be like, well, I just had a conversation with a client. They told me whether they should rent or sell their property, and here's how the conversation went. Here's what my recommendation to him was. And then that's basically how I would do it. So I would take whatever conversations I would have with clients or my agents, and then I would produce the content based on that. Whatever, just simple conversations, whatever went on that day, I would take that and do it.
That's good, man. And to answer your question, Jessica, yes, there's pre-written topics and scripts to get you started. When you start with video, it's easiest when someone's interviewing you over a webcam like this. So you just start on a webcam, maybe have someone interview you, and then they maybe edit themselves out, and now you have a video where you're comfortable. And then eventually, taking Toastmasters, Jose, you're a rock star, to get better at speaking, right?
Yeah.
I mean, come on. I mean, eventually you can just pull out your phone in the moment and be comfortable communicating in through media, one-to-many, and then maybe just one-to-one over the phone.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
All right,
What's your main source of seller leads, Jose?
So it's my sphere of influence now, but like my sphere of influence, I have strategically grown that. It's not like just like my database or past clients. So anytime I'd have a conversation with somebody that was like an attorney, I would take them out to lunch and I'd say, hey, great. Would you be open? I know that you're probably extremely busy. Would you be open to having lunch? And then after that, I would add them to my database. I would keep in touch with them. They start receiving my viral marketing videos. They start receiving the Real Geeks update. They start receiving some of the Facebook stuff that I do with retargeting and stuff. So it's just about getting as many people in there, keeping in touch with them and staying in front of them, because now you're staying in front of them. So my sphere of influence, but there's a lot of people that we prospected into the sphere of influence, because I didn't come from like this gigantic, great listing machine database. It was like, okay, who can I provide value, and who can do business? Who can we do business with for a long time? And a lot of the times are attorneys, accountants, and a lot of those people.
If I'd like to maybe take this conversation a little bit deeper on what he's doing, because you're in California and there's discounters, disruptors, everyone's competing for the agent's commission, right? Tell us how you're competing against that, because it sounds like a very database-driven strategy that insulates you from much of that, or maybe not. Can you maybe share how you're dealing with that in the marketplace?
So on every listing, we still have to compete because there's a lot more agents than there are transactions in my marketplace. So even then, what helped, in case you guys are wondering how I jumped from 57 to 109, my presentation got a lot better at listing appointments. So it just got gorilla strong. So essentially I started a large portion of my career, I would practice what I was already good at. So what I started doing is I started practicing my weaknesses. I know a lot of people say focus on your strengths, but my weaknesses were hurting me tremendously. So for example, I couldn't close at a listing presentation. If they told me, Jose, I need to think about it, like I didn't know what to say and how to say it to where I could actually close. If they would ask me, Jose, what are you going to do to market and sell my property? Mike Ferry has a standard 18-point marketing plan of action. Unfortunately, in California, that didn't work out too well for me, because they were like, okay, you're going to submit my home to the MLS. You're going to price my home competitively. You're going to do this and that. But it wasn't like that. Wow. So I came up with a plan of action as well, too. So a very strong plan of action so that I can show them exactly and precisely what I'm going to do to market and sell their property. So I got better at closing. I improved my plan of action as well too. And yeah, we're still competing against, even though they're referrals, I always get 2 to 3 other people that I'm competing against most of the time. Then it just comes down to presentation skill.
That's great.
Jose, you mentioned probates earlier. How do you work the probates, and how would one go about doing that?
So essentially the way that I started reaching out to the administrators very first. And then every time I would do a deal with an attorney, my mission would just be to provide the highest level of customer service to that attorney. So we systemize our entire process to be able to communicate with them, make sure that the paperwork was done correctly. And whenever given an opportunity to have lunch with them, I would actually take them out to lunch and build more of that relationship. And then after lunch, I would take notes on it as well too. So for example, if I had a lunch with an attorney and he told me, hey, my kids graduated from UCLA, my wife does this, my wife does that, I took the time to actually get to know them as well too, to the point where it's more of a relationship now. And they know that I can perform as well too. They know that if we do business, the paperwork's going to be done the right way. And obviously I'm going to take great care of the client. So whenever an attorney, CPA, anybody gives me a referral, I go above and beyond making it happy. Like anything that I have to do to just make it work.
All right. My next question is, they're part of your hot list of your center of influence. And so are probably past clients, other professionals and vendors that can give you more. And I'll probably, you have an A list of people you've done business with that like to send you referrals. How often do you follow up with them? We know that you're putting them in the database and you share with all the things how often do you actually call these people on the phone and touch base?
About once a quarter, roughly.
4 times a quarter.
Yeah, once a quarter, but there's all kinds of other stuff that are happening in the background.
Yeah.
Like, for example, like the seller reports, the viral emails and stuff. So we're keeping in touch with them more by some of the stuff that just happens automatically. But yeah, we're trying to touch base with them at least once a quarter.
And then what would you say for there's probably a lot of agents that are not at your level watching this. Let's say you're following up on just a normal person, not an attorney, because attorney you'd be following up, trying to build that relationship, ask them if they have any deals coming or what have you. What about the normal buyer seller or the person that's through cold calling that you're following up? What do you say to them? I know you've got them set up on the market reports. What are you saying when you're calling them? How's that usually go?
So essentially early on in my career, I came up with a list of like what I would consider valuable topics to reach out to my database. Because a lot of the times people get call reluctance, not because they don't want to call, just they don't know what to say.
Exactly.
And they think that they're bothering people. So I came up with a list on that topic. It was like, okay, like if I knew that they were refinancing or that they had bought like 2 years ago and I knew that interest rates dropped, I would have a conversation with them about interest rates. If I knew that the marketplace had appreciated in their neighborhood, I would have a conversation with about some of the recent properties that have sold in the neighborhood. For example, if I knew that they owned a lot of real estate, I would have a conversation with them about trust and estate planning. That way I can add value to some of my attorney clients. If I knew that their kids had just left college, I would have a conversation with them about potentially downsizing. If I would... just different things. But what was key for me is I would actually coach my clients in the conversation. So Mike teaches you to ask your people, like, who do you know that would like to buy or sell real estate in the next 7 to 10 days? A lot of times people would say no. And then I would say, okay, not a problem. Well, just so you know, these are some of the things that people may not tell you that they want to buy or sell, but these are some of the life events that happen that would cause people to buy it or sell. For example, like if you know of somebody that maybe their kids moved off to college, maybe they need to downsize into something smaller. If you know of somebody that is getting elderly and they have a 2-story home, maybe they need to downsize to a single story. If you know somebody who's had a recent death in their family, they may need to sell a property. If you know somebody going through a divorce. So as opposed to just telling them, hey, who do you know that would like to buy or sell? I would coach them on different life events that people were going through that maybe they're not publicizing that they need to buy or sell, but because of the life event that they're going through, like a job relocation or whatever, may cause them to buy or sell. So they were more apt to picking up, well, I don't know. They would tell me, no, I don't know somebody looking to buy or sell. But then when I would say, sometimes when people are getting divorced, well, my cousin is getting divorced. Now that you say it, he may need to sell his property. Now, because I explained it to them the way that it actually works. Now they were able to become better referral partners for me as well too, or better referral, provide me with better leads.
So you're coaching them to be more aware of what's going on around the surroundings. And if somebody meets that criteria, they know to call Jose.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right. And then also one of the advantages of putting them on sold searches or market reports, when you are calling them, you got there in the CRM, you can see all the properties they've been viewing and the reports. And so one thing you can also ask them too, I'm just trying to help the audience here, is, hey, I've been sending you those market reports. Do you have any question what's going on in the market or any of the properties that recently sold, or anything that's currently under escrow? Do you need to know about that? So I'm just trying to help the audience along here. I'm not trying to
you want to hear something funny, Jeff?
Yeah.
So like I had a client that was on a home search. And then I saw that they hearted a property or loved the property on there. So what I do is I called them up and I said, hey, look, this property just came on the market. I don't know if you've seen it or not, because you don't want to tell people that they're clicking on the stuff that you essentially have access to. So I don't know if you've seen it or not. I think it's a great opportunity for you. It's a 3-bed, 2-bath on a 123 Banana Street. no way, Jose, I saw that property too. I really like that property. So that's kind of crazy when you have access to that information, because you can actually, some of your calls can be based on that. Like, hey, like without telling them, like, hey, this property, now you look like somebody who's looking out for the client. Now you look like somebody who's being proactive about it, and they appreciate that kind of stuff.
So how about your market? Are there very many expireds right now?
There isn't too many expires. There still are. Like, for example, I've got a listing appointment today on an expired. We've got a couple of in escrow right now. They're still out there. You just have to obviously be aggressive, and you have to essentially communicate with them in a way that causes them to want to work with you as well too.
What about for sale by owners? Do you work them?
Yeah, I work them. I call all expires, all for sale by owners. We've actually had a little bit more success with for sale by owners this year than expired.
How are you working the FSBOs?
So just phone calls on the phone. We grab their email addresses too, so we put them on home sale searches. I think it just comes down to the message, to be honest. Like, I think the best investment somebody can make, besides all the technology thing, is the way that they communicate with people. Because you and I, Jeff, we can talk to the same person, and we can have a completely different conversation just on the base that we communicate with them. So essentially, if you improve the way that you communicate with people, you're going to improve the conversations that you have with them, which are ultimately going to lead to more closed business. So I spent throughout my career a lot of time focusing on the way that I communicate with people, communicating with them in a way where I never make them wrong. I'm always coming from a place of service, and I'm in it to help them, not me.
Sure. And then did you go to any training or coaching for that?
Oh yeah, Mike, and a lot. So basically, I had another mentor who's in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, does about 150 all seller deals, like a magician when it comes to being on the phone. He basically told me that in order for me to get my skills up, I need to practice twice a day, 6 days a week. So I was like, oh shit.
Like, oh, that's a commitment.
So I just said he did, but when he broke it down to me that he got to that level by practicing every day, I mean, that made sense. So I started seeking out people in real estate that were magicians at skills, and I started role playing with all of them and just learning from them. I'm still learning. I still role play twice a day, 6 days a week, because I'm still learning from them. And I think that's the difference between the amount of time that I've taken to practice that has allowed me to convert at higher levels than a lot of people.
Yeah, I think it's huge because I deal with a lot of customers and a lot of realtors. I mean, we have over 5,000 customers, and, and a lot of times I'll get on a conversation with someone and they'll say, hey, well, the leads are horrible. They're this or that. And I'll say, hey, let's role play and go through it. And then they'll go and I'll be the buyer or whatever, and they'll role play, and then I'll turn it around and I'll role play with them. And I'll say, hey, do you see the difference? There is a totally different level of listening and skill. And if you're in real estate and you really want to do something, instead of just get by, you really need to focus on your skills and go to coaching, or maybe at least go to training classes that will help you on the skills, and then find other like-minded agents and work on that, want to get better and do the role playing. I did that every day for weeks, every day of the week for years, at least 12 years plus when I was in the one-on-one coaching, and my sales skyrocketed. So if you want better results, stop blaming the leads or the prospects. Start looking at yourself and seeing what you can do better to have better conversations.
Well, the thing is, like, you have to look at real estate like a professionals, professionals practice, doctors practice, professional athletes practice. So essentially, if you practice your skills, your conversion level is going to get a lot higher. So practice the objections that you're going to get. Oh, we already have an agent. Oh, we're not ready to buy right now. Or we're not ready to sell. Or how much commission do you charge? Or we have to interview more agents. I need to think about it. They all say similar things,
Sure. All right. Frank, are there any other questions popping up there? I like kind of maybe going forward, involving the audience as we go along.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I think I'd like to go back again. I think this can relate to a lot of people watching. Can you go a little deeper of when did you feel comfortable making the jump from buyer agent to strictly or predominantly seller?
So it was in my second year that I made the jump, and that's when I shadowed that other agent. And yeah, that's when I made the jump. And I just knew that I could be a little bit more efficient with my time by focusing on sellers, and that it could be something that I can scale and grow a little bit more. It was tough. Don't get me wrong. It was probably one of the toughest transitions that I've ever had to do in my career. And it was a lot of failure. I mean, I would get on, I remember my first year that I went on a lot of listings. I went like probably on 60 presentations and I only took like 5 listings. It was horrible. It was horrible conversion rate, but I was just kind of stubborn and I just kept going at it and kept working and kept practicing.
That's amazing.
Jose,
okay, go ahead.
Yeah, where does the drive come from for you to work so darn hard on yourself to improve yourself?
I was just going to ask how'd you get that mindset? So
where did that come from? We're going to become psychiatrists in this question.
I wasn't the greatest kid growing up. Like, I mean, I was like an average 2.0 student. I was kind of not a troublemaker, but I partied. I got a lot of partying done early on in my career. So when I got started into real estate, none of my family wanted to do business with me. None of it. Like, I had uncles that were buying real estate, nobody. And I think it was a drive to like prove something, to prove that I could do it. But not only could I do it, I was going to be great at it. So I think it was a little bit of when I got into it, people were like, didn't really see me as somebody that would be extremely successful at it. And then I just started setting bigger and bigger goals. I remember early on, I told myself that I was going to be the #1 agent in my marketplace. And last year I was the #1 sellers agent in my marketplace. So, I think it was a little bit of proving to people, proving to myself that I could do it. And then I've always kind of been in positions where I invest all my money and I'm always broke, meaning I always reinvest back into real estate. So I think I have to produce sometimes.
So you're taking your profits and commissions and buying real estate.
Oh yeah, I'm at 7 properties right now.
Nice.
We just hold over. I have $1 million net worth. All of my real estate produces cash flow, and that has helped me in my real estate career because it pays for all my personal expenses, which means I can take more risk in my business. So,
what? This is a good question. I'm going to rephrase it differently. What, for an agent that has, say, the Mike Ferry 18 points, what options would you recommend an agent to bring more power and deliverables to their listing presentation of things that maybe they could do to help win the listing or bring more value to the seller beyond just some of the basic stuff you were saying that's in that you were originally saying in California?
So I'll give you a couple of points on mine. So on mine, the first thing that I do is I'll help them prepare the property for sale. So I'll tell them something like, hey, so the first thing that I'm going to do is once you hire me is I'm going to help you prepare your property for sale. So once you sign the contract in a few moments, I'm going to do a quick walkthrough with you of your home. And I'm going to give you some helpful tips that are going to help you add value to your property. And then it's on an iPad, and then I'll zoom in on a like before picture. I'll be like, look, this was a property that was listed with another agent. That's what the other agent made it look like. And this is what we made it look like. And they see the before. And this is a real life situation, like this is an expired that was listed with another agent. And then I listed it and it just looked night and day completely different. And then I'll tell them something. Can you see the difference? They'll be like, yeah. Guess how long it took for me to sell it when it was listed with another agent for 6 months? They're like, well, 30 days. You're right, 29 days. So a lot of it has to do with creating a plan of action that provides more value. So prepare your home for sale, professional photography, coming soon campaign, Facebook marketing, video marketing, and more things on there. But it's not necessarily on what you do, guys. It's not the service, it's the selling of the service. How are you selling the service? Because you and I can offer the exact same thing. And in most cases, most real estate agents offer the exact same thing in terms of services. It's just, how do you sell them? So what I would encourage somebody to do is not only create the marketing plan, practice the delivery of the marketing plan of action. How are you going to deliver that in a way where it shows value to the consumer? It's question-based, and it encourages the seller to make a great decision, which is to hire you as their agent. So I would say that's the key, not only having the plan, but learning how to sell that plan.
That's great advice.
Yeah, my mentor told me the money is not in the service. It's in the selling of the services. So it's not who provides the best services, it's who can sell the services better. So I took that to heart and I said, man, that's totally true. So if I can get really good at selling this marketing plan of action, I do my marketing plan of action the same way every single time. And I've got it to a point where I can present in a way where it entices them to be like, man, this is the guy that I want working for me. This is the guy that I want representing me. This is the guy that's going to market my home better than anybody else. This is the guy that's going to negotiate better than anybody else. I want him on my team.
That's great.
You're awesome.
More questions. I'm going to keep going with these.
Yeah,
I like this one. Let's talk money. So at some point, so at some point, you got to start writing some checks. And Rich has a good question. Big time. Rich asked the question, tell us about that point you had to make a leap of faith to buy a system like Real Geeks, hire Vyral, or invest in coaching at like $1,000 a month or whatever. That's the big thing. That was the first one for you, right?
Coaching, yeah. That was a big one.
I know your friend drug you over there.
Yeah, he did.
tell us about how maybe you organized that in your head, or maybe where you were financially. Help,
it was a big decision. I was making like $50,000, $60,000 at that time. $1,000 a month, that's $12,000 a year. That's like 20% of your income going into it. But at that point, I was living with my parents, so I was blessed in a way where I didn't really have that much overhead. I was super frugal at the beginning of my career. All my cars were paid off in cash, so I didn't really have any expensive liabilities. So
I take the risk.
Yeah, I could take the risk. I didn't have any. Not to say that makes it a little bit harder, but that allowed me to do it. So very early on in my career, I stayed away from all liabilities. All liabilities. I had cars that were completely paid off. Everything I would pay it off in cash. And that allowed me to take some risk. But in terms of that, what helps me out now when I take bigger risk now is I think about worst case scenario. And if I can accept worst case scenario, then I'm good with it. So if I'm considering joining coaching, it's going to be a $12,000 investment. If I got $12,000 and I didn't get nothing of it, would I be okay with that? And I would. So I now when, like, for example, like, what did I do? Whenever we buy investment properties now, like, I just think worst case scenario, what's the worst thing that can happen? So
good. I'll take it.
That's a good way to go.
Coaching sounds like it was a big step for you. So I got kind of two questions around that. How long have you been in coaching with MFO? What process, what tips would you provide someone to find a coach when they're a beginner? And then maybe how did you find your role play partners? Let's talk about that.
So yeah, coaching was instrumental in my thing. I would go to I remember the first time I joined coaching, I heard somebody say that they would go to 10 to 12 events a year. So if you're joining a new system, you have to immerse yourself into it. You can't just kind of dibble and dab. So I remember like my first 12 months, I went to like 10 to 12 events just because I wanted to keep getting to know the people. What I tell people is I have learned more from the people that I have associated myself with than the actual coach. So the value in coaching is in the people that you get to meet. The coaching is great, but the value is in the people. Like, the people that you get to meet are just solid people. So you have to be able to go to as many events as you can and get to know as many people as you can, because those are going to be the people that are going to help you with mastermind groups. They're going to help you role playing. They're going to do script practice with you. So a lot of the value was in getting to know a lot of people and making them my role play partners, making them part of my mastermind group. And now I keep in touch with a lot of them, and we help each other out. We honestly do. We we provide feedback to each other, and we're candid with each other. If there's room for improvement, we help each other out. So a lot of the value, Frank, comes in the people like that you're gonna meet.
So Jose, you were in the one-on-one coaching with Mike, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and with that one-on-one coaching, when I was in it, all the events were free. That was part of the coaching price. I don't know if that's still the same. So they're probably thinking, oh my God, coaching at $1,000 or $800 a month or whatever his coaching is now, plus going to all these events. But the events, you only had to pay for your travel. The actual events didn't cost you anything, correct?
Well, no, I only had to pay for my travel. But here's the thing. Here's the reason I would recommend going to as many events as possible. Like, let's say that I go to my first event and I meet a top producer, and I don't see that top producer again for another year. He's probably not going to remember me unless I'm this hot chick or something like that. Probably not going to remember me. So what I did is a lot of the top producers kept going to the same events over and over again. So I went to the first event, I got to meet him. Second event, I got to meet him. Third event, I got to meet again. By the fourth time I met him, we were friends now. So it allowed me to connect with people that were doing a lot more business. Not only that, what I would do when I would go to events is I would make what I called the hit list. I made a hit list of everybody that I wanted to meet at the event and that I wanted to get on my schedule. So on that hit list were people like Jason Penrose from Arizona. On that hit list were people like Aaron Novello from Fort Lauderdale, Greg Harrelson from North Carolina, Greg Sisson from Myrtle Beach. There were all these heavy producers that I wanted to meet. And I would just stay in front of them. I would be like, hey, can I have lunch with you guys? I didn't care if I was just sitting there listening. I just wanted to be associated with them. The interesting part is that because I was so persistent in who I wanted to be around, a lot of those people are my friends now. So a lot of those people know me by first name. A lot of those people call me. A lot of those people keep in touch with me. And those are people that at that point were producing a lot higher than what I was.
That's great. I got a question I'll jump in here with regard to the video marketing. For those of you just getting started, there's a lot of kind of free video email options out there to kind of get yourself on a webcam. Loom is a great option. Once you go from there, I believe you have a BombBomb integration. Jeff, is that correct with Real Geeks?
Yeah, we have a BombBomb integration.
Yep, so that costs a little more money to be able to use video. And then at the top end of the scale, you're starting to get into Vyral, where you're hiring people to help you execute on it. And after Vyral, you become where you start hiring like video crews to follow you around. I think we've seen some agents doing some of those things, which is certainly fine. Jeff, you had a video crew follow you around for a few Keeping It Reals, is that right? Yeah,
we did 3 or 4 on locations, and then we also did some mastermind events at the Real Geeks headquarters.
Yep. And then as far as for Matt asks for professional videos, the webcam that I'm on is a great place to start. It's the Logitech C920. I believe that's probably the one you use, Jose. Microphone's just fine. You can record into an audio microphone like this with a lav mic and match the two in editing. And I don't think you can see this on my screen, but I have a little light above me here. You guys see that?
Yep.
I got a little light on me to keep me lit. And as long as you have a big giant window in your background, this doesn't help with my lighting, but you look pretty darn good. So I thought I'd just jump in and share that.
You look awesome, Frank.
Thanks. Maybe looks good to you today with those sunglasses.
Jose, what are you doing to keep your momentum going? And what's your day look like so you don't get distracted?
Yeah, so I just stay consistent with it, to be honest. I built at first when I used to prospect, it was kind of like I had to do it. Now it's more of a habit. Now, if I don't do it, it's kind of weird, to be honest. Not only that, but I've gone to the point in my business where I can delegate a lot more than what I did at the beginning. Like, I don't ever have to put a sign. I don't ever have to put a lockbox. I don't ever have to do a lot of the things that sometimes take time. So I think the fact that I've been able to stay consistent with the prospecting has allowed me to hire people to do a lot of the other stuff for a fraction of what it would cost me if I did it.
All right, great. And then I got another question that just kind of piggyback on that. What are you thinking about, or what do you think you need to do to take your business to the next level? Maybe get 150 or 200 transactions a year.
It's going to be marketing based, marketing and lead generation based. So I feel that I have ran my business pretty slim, pretty cut in dry, meaning everything has been prospecting based, and all of the buyers basically come from a lot of our listings, open houses and stuff. I'm gonna probably do some more marketing, like meaning like radio, maybe pay-per-click, and some of that other stuff to get a little bit more. I would have to reinvest a little bit more back into the business, which I'm okay with it as long as there's a positive ROI on the investment. So my business has been pretty like lean and mean, which means I'm pretty profitable, and it has allowed me to keep a lot of the money. But it's also a weakness because we haven't really reinvested. So a lot more into video, testimonials, Facebook, a lot of that's good stuff.
So a little bit more marketing to cast a bigger net then.
The cast and internet is going to be still prospecting based because everything is prospecting and skill based, but it's going to make it a little bit easier for us when we're doing it.
All right, great. All right, Frank, any other questions you got on there?
Yeah, do you use Facebook ads?
Very little, mostly for retargeting. So we retarget our database from Real Geeks, and we retarget our database from Vyral.
Yeah.
Basically, we're staying in front of the people that we've already had in contact with, just so that everywhere they look, it's pretty much virtually impossible for them to miss us. So we do retargeting.
I can vouch for that because I went to his website and now I've got Jose Luis Morales following me around everywhere on the web, not just Facebook, but I go everywhere. He's there. You can't get away. It's awesome.
I could vouch for that too. I had a lot of options in the Vyral program we put together of like what type of Facebook ads we can do. And Jeff's company does a wonderful job with buyer and seller lead ads and marketing listings. We don't do that. But the one thing on Facebook is take those videos, spend a couple bucks a day remarketing all that website traffic. It's the best money you can spend.
It's so cheap too,
it's so
man.
cheap.
It's like stupidly cheap. It's like $1, $2 a day, man.
Yeah. And you hit all the people that have been recently to your website, so that's great.
Can't even buy a cheeseburger with that. I'm kidding.
No. Hey, Jose, who are you doing the retargeting through, or what company's helping you on not the Facebook retargeting? The other ones are all over the web.
There's a couple of choices. There's like AdWorks and AdChoices, I believe. Those are the two major ones. Like more like realtor based, and then AdChoices, the one that like Grant Cardone and all of them use. They're the ones with like the little triangle and stuff on the corner.
All right, Frank, are there any more questions before we wrap it up?
I got a couple. I'm reading them. How do you respond to a seller who asks to tell them to add value to their home, but they want this information before they sign to compare the suggestions from different agents? I don't know if I understand that question.
I think what they're asking is, what if the seller, you know, how he says, hey, I can show you, when you hire me, I'm going to show you how to fix up your houses. What do you say to the seller that wants all those ideas before you hire them? Yeah. I think that's what the question is.
I would say it's a case-by-case situation, to be honest. A lot of the people that I do that to have actually already hired me, and I'll prep them in the presentation. When I'm presenting, I'll tell them something like, good, look, once you sign the contract in a few moments, I'm going to do a quick walkthrough with you of your home. I'm going to give you some helpful suggestions that are going to help you add value. A lot of the times too, I always try to close on the first time at the listing presentation. So I do everything I can to walk away with a signature. That way I can just complete the process and do the walkthrough with them right after I do it. If for whatever reason I'm not able to do the walkthrough and they still want my suggestions, I'll give it to them. I'm not going to like withhold it because they haven't hired me. But at that point, you got to remember, you're still selling yourself to them tremendously. You're still in those suggestions. Everything that you do from the first conversation that you have with the seller, you're selling every single one of them is a presentation. So from the time you pick up the phone, that's a presentation. From the time you pre-qualify them, that's a presentation. From the time you shake their hand, from the walkthrough with them of the home that you do, if you decide to do the walkthrough with them of the home, the way that you look at their kitchen, the way that you ask them questions, all of that is a presentation. So if you're giving them suggestions, just remember that it's a presentation. So monitor whatever it is that you're saying to, just monitor it and know that you're still selling them on it. Sellers like to hear that you're going to make the most money, that you're confident that you're going to sell the property, and that you're going to do so in the least time. And whenever they're investing money into a property, they want to hear the fact that you're only going to make suggestions that if they invest the dollar, that they're going to get money back in return. For example, if they invest $1, they don't want to trade that for 50 cents. They don't want to trade that for 25 cents. They don't want to trade it for a penny. They want to trade $1 for $2 or $1 for $3. So don't make any suggestions that you're not going to see a positive return on it. You know, like a lot of the times the suggestions that I give aren't necessarily fixing up the property. It's more or less staging the furniture in a way, or depersonalizing or removing personal items to make it a little bit more neutral. There's a lot of the suggestions that I give, as opposed to, hey, we need to paint the entire house, or we need to change the windows in the front, or we need new landscaping. Because a lot of the times it doesn't make a dramatic, significant difference that's worth the investment in comparison to the risk. A lot of the times, if you just depersonalize, declutter the property, it'll make a significant difference if you obviously take fantastic photos and you stage it up a little bit.
Excellent.
How old are you, Jose?
31.
31. Congratulations, man.
Married too.
Nice.
Congratulations. That's good.
All right. Is that it, Frank, or do we have any more?
Yep, this will be recorded. You can watch the replay right here on the YouTube channel. It'll be, again, up on the iTunes. It'll be on the Real Geeks page. You'll be able to find it anywhere online. Jose, thank you so much.
Yeah, I'd like to thank Jose for coming on. And any of you that have referrals for Ventura County, put Jose Luis Morales in your database, and he definitely can help them out. He's a great salesperson.
And then the last thing, if people want to find me online, they can find me on Instagram, Jose Luis Morales. It's with a Z. So Luis is with a Z instead of an S. And then you can find me on Facebook as well, too. And then Ventura County is in the middle of LA County and Santa Barbara County. We're right in the middle, just for those of you that don't know where we're at.
Perfect. All right. Well, thanks again for joining us, Jose. You've been phenomenal. You're amazing. I know everybody got a ton out of this, and we'll see you all later. Thanks a lot.